Survivors, seekers, and thrivers, welcome to Transcending Trauma, a spiritual odyssey. I'm Shari Lee Roberts, living proof that transformation is real. Get ready for powerful insights, inspiring stories, and a little laughter along the way.
Hello and welcome back. I have an incredible woman and fellow author and medium with me today. I have the beautiful Soreya James, who was kind enough to get up at 4 a.m. New Zealand time.
Yes.
Talk with me. Let's welcome her and thank you for doing this and being here. Soreya, among many things beyond mediumship and authorship, has taken journeys many of us have taken that are not easy, but test us to the deepest part of our souls. There are times she, like me, and others have wanted to give up, but was called to step it up and make that difference. That takes the warrior spirit and belief to do with that. Now, normally, I would ask you to start at your child and tell us about that. But what spirit is asking is for you to share right now where you're at and what you're doing. And from there, we'll kind of go back.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
I
And
love that.
it's a real pleasure to be here. And it's an interesting time of the morning because everything is so still
Yeah.
and so quiet. The mind is there's just so much silence. So there's a greater opportunity for spirit to be here.
Yes.
What is happening right now is at this particular stage in my life is I'm being called to stillness. So the perfection of this time of the morning is actually echoing what is happening in my life. And I know that's the case for many of us women at this stage in our life. The call to silence, the call to stillness, the call to deepening, the call to listening. It's almost a call to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a confusing time. It can be a time of feeling empty or feeling numb or feeling like there's a big transition happening and we just don't know what's next. And so sitting still and not thinking like, oh, what is my purpose or what am I meant to do next, is actually tuning deeper in to our wisdom, but tuning also deeper into the wisdom of the guides in and around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you put the two things together about what's happening now and childhood, because that's what we did as children. We sat in awe and wonder. We sat with our imaginary friends. We talked to animals. We talked to our dolls. We talked to the air. And then we get conditioned to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget that we're connected. We forget that we have beings around us. We get told by life that that's crazy or not to be silly, and so there's this arc that happens between the child and then having to do the work of the inner child
Yeah.
to get back to that childlike innocence that was always there but kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
That we come back to again as we come into our wisdom years, and then as we age, and then we start speaking to spirit more and more and listening to spirit more and more as we get closer to, maturing years.
So,
Mm.
you are helping women or people in this time of their life is I am. What is the top three things that you see in your clients that prevent them from accepting and moving into this glorious time in life?
What a beautiful question. Definitely the lack of acceptance of what is happening
Yeah.
to ourselves. Acceptance of the change and the transition in our bodies, and the fact that society has created an image with which we are, supposed to look like, and everything of this time is going against that image, and we are trying, women in general are trying to maintain that image physically. So that's a big one, is can I accept this body as it changes and softens? Which is probably the second thing, is that we have been so hardened by life, hardened by conditioning, hardened by, especially in the Western countries, we are taught to harden up. We
Mm.
go to the gym to make our bodies hard. We go to institutions to construct the mind. And what I've struggled with, and what I see my clients struggling with, is how to soften our hearts, how to embrace the softening of our bodies, how to soften the mind, just to relax into the, oh, I don't remember. Oh, I can't think what the word is. Oh, I don't know. Like, okay,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
biggest one is softening. The biggest one is softening the heart. There's so much reaction and this kind of pushing up against each other and up against life that I'm working really strongly on at the moment, not just in myself, but with the people around me too. Just soften, can you soften your heart? Can you take a breath? So those are definitely the three main areas that I'm working with at the moment, that I'm teaching about.
Uh, Beautiful, and needed. Now, many of us, you included, have endured man's trauma. For me, in my healing journey, to get to where I am today, I needed to escalate face and release that. It takes time. It is a ball busting journey, but I think we agree it is necessary in order to be able to get to those three points that you mentioned. Most importantly, being able to just be, be quiet, be comfortable in ourselves. Talk a little bit about your trauma and how you use your mediumship to help others identify theirs and move on.
Hmm. My trauma began, and I don't actually use that word so much anymore.
Yeah,
My gift, the gifts that I were given,
yeah,
that I know not most people are not ready to see it from that perspective. But
yeah.
the trauma for me was sexual abuse as a little girl,
Oh,
um, and a family member. It was my grandfather, and it went on for many years and was across about seven of our cousins. So it was family trauma, it was generational trauma. Um,
God.
the the story kind of moved from being that little girl to when I was actually pregnant with my son, 20 years ago, and meeting my grandfather in the flesh, and being able to look at him in the eye and tell him I forgave him. But the story leading up to that is what still has me in awe, because Spirit guided me to that particular place on that day.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I didn't know where he lived at the time. I hadn't seen him in 15 years. And I was visiting a friend, and it was as if my car drove me and took me to this place. And next minute I'm standing in the reception area of this retirement village saying, this man's name. And the whole experience of that particular day, the car being driven, the meeting of him, the sitting in front of his face, pregnant, having this conversation, I felt as if every being that was supporting me, that was holding me, was in the room with me. To have the strength to have that conversation with a man that had caused me so much pain and suffering. And I felt like it was that moment that my faith in everything, my faith in everything woke up. And it's been then since that I've never questioned my intuition. I've never questioned the messages. I've sat with clients ever since and listened so deeply to the beings that are around, and never questioned what they've had to say.
Wow.
And that takes a lot when you're working with Spirit to be able to just go, am I going to question this? Am I going to speak this?
Yeah.
So it was almost like that. Yeah, that moment was just a complete affirmation that I'm in the right place at the right time, to trust that, and to know the guidance is real. Even but the biggest part is that you're safe.
Yeah.
Even though you're in the presence of a human being that may not have felt safe, Spirit keeps you safe.
Yes.
And it was those two pieces that reminded me that no matter what, there is no dark spirit. There's only the light that carries us for our greatest healing. Yeah.
Yes, that moment as you said, that the recognition comes that what he did to you can no longer hurt you. Our past, our memories are just that. And when you face them, and I honestly have faced abusers, but none sexual, and none my grandfather. So the fact that you had that confidence, courage, knowing you were protected and could just tell him whatever you needed to, and then safely walk away is huge. Absolutely huge. Do you mind telling us? You don't have to tell us what you told him or any of that. What?
No,
Oh,
no,
go.
carry on, carry on.
No, go.
Okay. I'm very happy to, because it's part of my story or his story, and
Okay.
it's a book that I've written. The the exchange was such that it felt like the little girl in me was speaking to him,
Good.
and it felt like the woman in me and the mother to be was sitting holding her. It was that's how I experienced it. Like she was sitting on my knee
Oh,
and she got to say all the things that she never got to say,
nice.
which was also part of the work that I was training in at the time. So it was, yeah, it was very interesting. He was sitting in the deep boy chair on the other side of the room. And when I first came into the room, because I'd collapsed in the hallway, it was a nursing home, and one of the nurses was walking with me, and my legs had gone from underneath me at the thought of confronting him, because
Oh,
it was also strange that I
yeah,
was just here. All of it. I was
yeah,
like, how did I get here?
yeah, yeah.
And then she took me into the lounge room and gave me a cup of tea and allowed me to kind of settle. So by the time I was ready to meet him, there was an extra sort of strength, and I'd almost had a conversation with myself about how this might go. But when I saw him, he was just my granddad. He was
Wow,
just granddad. He wasn't the man that had hurt me. He wasn't the abuser. The little girl just saw him as granddad. And as soon as I saw him, I cried.
wow,
And I cried for what I'd missed, what he'd missed.
yep.
And then he looked at me, and because he had dementia, he looked at me as if he didn't know me. And then the anger and the rage came out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, don't you pretend. Don't you pretend like you don't know me. You know exactly who I am. And then I started to name his grandchildren that he'd hurt. So I was representing, because I was the eldest granddaughter, and
Ah.
I was representing them. And then I said that, he'd hurt his family, and I asked him why he thought he was here on his own and no one visited him,
Mm.
and the damage that he'd done, and the sadness that I felt that he wasn't going to meet his great grandson that was in my belly.
Yeah.
And then it was the strangest thing that he pulled a handkerchief out of his pocket, and it was a handkerchief that I recognized from when I was a little girl. Old men have handkerchiefs.
Yes.
And and he went to hand it to me to wipe my tears. And I found myself coming to him and kneeling down on the floor and putting my head on his lap
Wow.
and using his handkerchief to wipe my tears. And I looked up at him and I just said to him, I have to say this to free myself.
Yeah.
I have to say this to be able to move on with my life. And I just said, I looked in his eyes and I said, I forgive you.
Wow.
I forgive you. And I said, you're my granddad. And I love you. And I can't even explain what happened in that moment, like, energetically, spiritually. But up until that moment, he'd kind of almost pretended like he didn't know me.
Yeah.
And then these little tears ran down his face, and
Wow.
he dabbed my tears and his tears, and he just looked at me and he said, I'm sorry for what I did. And I'll never forget that moment.
Wow. Wow.
It was a moment that set me free because I was holding it all in my body and I didn't
Yeah.
want my child to be born with that pain.
Yes.
And then I think I just sat there for a while and just said nothing, yeah. And it was many years later that I actually also confronted um, the older brother of one of my best friends who raped me when I was 11. I also confronted him and sat in front of his face and told him I forgave him. So
And
it's been a
what did that look like? Did he also deny it or no?
no, he was a grown man and he had so much resentment, so much pain
Guilt.
in himself for he was a 14-year-old boy. Not that that
Guilt.
makes it okay, but we were able to have a conversation as adults about consent and what that did for me as a young girl. And he was deeply sorry. He was deeply, deeply sorry. So when you receive that true apology, like at the level of the soul, the difference where they can look at you in the eye and tell you that they're sorry for the pain that they've caused you. It just helps to release you from it. It helped to release me, I should say. It helped to release me.
Well, you saying you forgive them really least you definitely. That is all about facing the trauma head on.
Yeah.
Asking what you are meant to learn from it, and then thanking Spirit for sharing, and then cutting the cords to it, setting yourself free. Wow, girl, you are not only the epitome of strength and courage, but also you give people strength to also do the same. And I
Mm,
have done it, others have done it, but for everyone who will hear this, who haven't yet found their courage, they will now. And
mm.
they too will be set free. Amazing. Tell us now, you did those two things. How many years apart were they that you talked to your grandfather and
Mm.
the brother?
I'm thinking somewhere between 3 or 4. Like, I can't really remember. I just know that my son was born. I definitely had my son, and I was visiting some friends in Sydney, Australia, and I knew that that's where this man lived. And so I did a search online and found him and messaged him, and he was willing to meet me. And I had a layover in Sydney for a night, and so it may have been 3 or 4 years. Or it might have been even closer, but it was within a short period of time between each other.
You,
Um,
yeah,
and
you. Oh,
people will often say to me, especially my mum, she's like, "You're the most forgiving person I know. You're so forgiving," sometimes to my detriment. And I think, if you can forgive at that level someone so close to you that has created, your whole life's trauma, really, like the core wounding, then you can forgive anything and anyone.
okay. I agree completely. And most importantly, share what that forgiveness did for you.
It sets you free from almost like the torture, like
Yeah,
when something so tragic has happened, when the mind is looking at it from that lens,
yeah.
it infiltrates every aspect of your life. It it prevents you from living your potential because you're so laden with this burden
Ah,
almost of
yes.
something happened,
Hmm.
something's wrong, the fear that it invokes in you from being your full self in the world. It prevents you from being able to feel safe in relationships and friendships, and it just
Life.
it just
Yeah,
clouds everything.
yeah.
So what forgiveness does is it takes the veil off. It removes the very thing that is shadowing your life. It's at the very core of, if we talk about shadow work, it's at the very core of the shadow work. It's like the last layer. And yet for me, it was one of the first things that I dealt, that I was gifted. You know, this is 22 years ago that this happened. It was at the very beginning of my journey, and then everything has unraveled. It's not the final piece. For most people, it's the final piece. For me, Spirit gave that gift to me first, so that I can then do the work for others. Yeah. And it's you're not condoning what anyone's done. You're not saying, I forgive you and therefore it's okay what you've done.
No.
It's, I don't condone what you've done at all. It's not okay. But at the level of my soul, your physical body caused me harm. Your mind caused me harm. But your soul is pure. So at the level of my soul, I forgive you at the level of your soul. And that's, there's nothing quite like it.
No. And I call that taking back our power, our experiences no longer control us. We forgive, we course, and we go on. We understand then after we've done that exactly what happened, who they were at the time, and why they did what they did to us. And now we are no longer victims.
That's exactly right.
My God. It is freeing and life changing.
Yeah.
We are already coming up on almost an hour. So, and I know you want to go back to that. What words would you like to give to those who are still too afraid to confront the people who victimized them? I mean, did horrific things, or even the people who didn't do horrible things, yet were still impacted, and it's preventing them from moving on.
Well, we both know it takes an incredible amount of courage to confront, what do you say, a perpetrator. And many of us don't have that level of courage. Some of us are, I guess, born with it, or are gifted with it, to be able to do the work that we do. And so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is surrogate work, where you can invite your therapist or another, human that you feel safe with, or you can even close your eyes and work with a spirit guide or a cushion even, and place that person that has caused you harm in the other person, or in the object, and begin speaking all the words that you've never been able to say. Let the child or the whomever it is, as that aspect of you that was harmed, say
Yeah.
all the words that you weren't able to say to that person. I've used that many, many, many times in my own healing and with my clients, where I've surrogated for them. So I'll say, allow me to sit in the place of your father, your partner, or whoever it's been, and we connect with the eyes, and it's just incredible how spirit comes in and takes over your form, almost as if you are that person. And they
Yes.
get to say, what's really important is that you get to say the things that you never got to say, that
Yeah.
you shouldn't say, that you couldn't say, that you haven't said, like really emptying out. Because we're taught to be good little girls, and what is it? Little girls are seen and not heard, and
Yeah.
always say nice things, and
Yeah.
think before you speak, and
Yeah.
so we're taught to,
Yeah.
and there's a lot that way, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people we need to say it to, and sometimes it's not pretty.
No.
So firstly, to be able to use a surrogate, or writing it down in a journal, is
Mm.
another really powerful way.
Yes.
But physically speaking it out releases
Yeah.
it from the cellular body,
Yeah.
and but
Yes.
creating a space to be able to just go and scream or rage, or
Mm.
snot and cry, and
Yes.
just get it out of your body. That's the most
Yes.
important thing. Get it out of your cells, or else it's going to cause
Yes.
disease.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember multiple times in my journey, the littlest thing triggering a memory and just uncontrollably crying. And as a kid, as you mentioned, don't cry, don't talk out, don't be mad. Once given that, like, it's okay, cry, let it out, just let it happen. Approval to do that is key instrumental, beautiful, totally agree. The healing journey is not at all pretty, right?
It's not
Yeah.
pretty and it's not easy, but it's
No.
necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. We're seeing more sickness, mental illness, and physical illness than ever before.
Yeah.
And if we don't do the work, I mean, this is pretty harsh, but if you don't do the work, you're literally dying. You're literally killing
Yeah.
yourself.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one way or the
But,
other. Light and
well,
living, death and
it,
dying.
you know, perfectly said, and to explain to those who don't get that, have the energies created by trauma. It stores in our bodies and creates terrible things. I mean, cancer, chronic illness, mental illness, you name it. The thing is, like you perfectly said, you need to deal with it. You just do. And no, you're not alone. There
Yeah.
are people like us who are here and willing to hold your hand and help you.
Yeah.
Also, it will be one of the best things you ever do for yourself. Thank you so much for getting up early to be here and be for we and please tell us how people can reach you and buy your books.
Thank you, Sherry. The best place to reach me is through social media. Even though I'm not much of a social media person, I am there. So Soreya James on Facebook or at Soreya James on Instagram. I don't post a lot, but I'm present. And
Okay.
Metamorphosis is available through my website. It's not available to buy in paperback form. It's an audio form because
Oh, nice.
it's really because of the narration, like I've narrated it myself. It has music weaved through it, so it takes you on this beautiful journey through your own healing journey, through my healing journey. But it also has, I'm a bit of a meditator, so I've weaved all these playlists and mantras and meditation music, and there's breath work in there, and there's specific teachings by me that really help to support the healing journey, and it's available on my website, which is not an easy one to tell. So maybe we can put a link up to it, and I can put a link up to the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. We will. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Transcending Trauma, the Spiritual Odyssey. If you're working to overcome trauma and would like to work with me or be a guest on my show, contact me through my website at shariroberts.org. Please hit the follow button to make sure you don't miss any episodes. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn at Shari Roberts. You can find all the links in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Shari Roberts, your host, reminding you that you're never alone. Until next time, sending you love and light.